Welcome. I'll let
Hello,
you all
thank
get
you.
started.
Oh,
We've got one speaker we're missing, so hopefully he'll be able to join us and come in a little while. Hello, everyone. It's just gone 12:30, middle of the day here in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm also joined by two colleagues who are in Adelaide, where it's midday in Australia. So it's fantastic to be here with you. My name is Nicole Amsing. I'm a coach with Lean Enterprise Australia, and I am co-hosting this session with my colleague from Lean Enterprise Australia, Tony McNaughton. And together we are thrilled to have David Heaslip and Danny Alisard with us this afternoon. I'm going to, in a couple of minutes, ask David and Danny to introduce themselves. We're also expecting to be joined by David Plunkett, the Chief Executive Officer of Eastern Health, and he will hopefully join us in a minute. A couple of technical issues that he's trying to resolve. So, here he is. Here's David. He's got my name. So that'll be confusing for everybody. Fantastic, David. You've appeared as me because you've used my link. That's terrific, but welcome. I was just doing some introductions. So we might just, we'll just go around the room. I did say it'll be a challenge for Tony and I because we've got two Davids and a Danny. And so we've got too many Ds and not enough of the rest of the alphabet. But we're really looking forward to hearing from these three leaders as they share their experience of lean thinking and practice in the context of leadership. They all have very different experiences, and it'll be great to hear from them. So we might go to David Heaslip first. David, do you want to spend a couple of moments introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about Century?
sure. Thanks, Nicole. I started my working life, and I'm not sure if this is really relevant for the lean discussion, but I started my working life working on a family farm. So I worked on a family farm for about 8 years, and during that period was a shearer. So none of that was sort of, although the shearing I guess could have done with some lean, but and then I decided to do a mature age entry test and went to university and worked in various industries actually. So have had a very wide look at how different businesses operate. I worked in the seafood industry, selling seafood around Australia and later on into Europe, and for a business that supplied mining and transport related equipment, to eventually when I got to Century Engineering. And I always wanted to get into that more manufacturing. I liked walking through a factory and seeing stuff being made. When I got to Century, I went there as the general manager, and it's probably fair to say that it was a bit of a slow business, maybe 15 people in the business in total, doing some pressed metal components, and it also had a fabrication shop which was capable of light fabrications. Apparently, it had done some heavier type work in the past, but by the time I got there, that was the capability of the business. So I went to work deciding what was going to be the direction of the company and how would we lift into what I sort of at the time was describing supplying tier one type customers and becoming a more capable company. So I did lots of discussions, lots of visits with people, and eventually an opportunity to manufacture the engines for the Victor lawnmowers came up. Now, I was at a point in my management journey and certainly lean journey where I pretty much didn't know what I didn't know. And I thought, well, there's no reason we can't do this sort of thing. But I did know enough to get an expert in manufacturing. So I had a fellow who had worked in Mitsubishi and had actually put in the engine plant into Mitsubishi in Adelaide. So he had some experience and some credibility. So he put together if you like, the technical part of the bid that we put together, and I put all the numbers to it, and we both went and presented that to Victor. And after some time, we were awarded that contract, and which was a bit of a surprise, but also a bit of a thrill because we were competing against some pretty pretty well-established organisations in the Eastern Seaboard. So it was a bit of a coup for us. We were given the contract in November in, I think it was 2003, and by the following March, we're making 200 engines a day. And then later on in the year, when in the high season, we sort of a high day would be 800 engines a day. So we went from an organisation that had no idea how to do that sort of volume manufacturing, and that was on the back of getting the right people in. And that was quite a journey, and I'll just very quickly take you through the rest of the journey of Sentry to where we are now. But as we went through the 2010s, we were travelling along and building engines, and that was all fine, and we were trying to develop some other parts of that type of capability, and that was working. But towards the end of the 2010s, it was pretty obvious that anything with manufacturing volume was going over to the low-cost countries in Asia. And so that sort of stuff was moving offshore. And that was something that sort of kept me awake at night. And I thought, well, how do we change the business and what do we look like in the years to come? So by the time we were in the early from about 2012 to well, at least for another 5 or 6 years, we were going through the process of reorganising the business, and an opportunity to buy a water treatment business from Sydney actually came up, and because we were doing some of the manufacturing for that, we'd started developing our fabrication skills and getting into more complex fabrication. So we bought that business, and then later on, a big target for us was, and we were developing a capability in defence in those early days, and had done some initial work on the Anzac ships. And we were developing that capability, but I was very interested in further developing that defence market and that mining market. And then an opportunity to buy, where we are now, a previous business with quite a good fabrication and machining capability. So that opportunity arose, and we ended up buying that. And then we were able to secure a customer number with BHP. So fast forwarding to now, our two biggest customers, one's in defence and one's in mining. So two Bs, BHP and BAE. So through those years, we were concentrating on developing capability, and I saw that every project that we won was an opportunity to develop our skills in that, really. And we were moving, and the direction we chose was moving into that high compliance manufacturing. So moving into in defence now, we're supplying the Collins class submarine in that sustainment, and in the through that process, we tried to bid into the French submarine project, and were down selected for that, but of course that was discontinued. And in the BHP area, we're developing that quite high compliance capability, and so we've been reasonably successful in that, and so that. We are sort of getting into an area where, for example, a BHP might say, well, we want Sentry to do that because that's an item that we can't have fail on the mine site. So we were doing that, and more recently, we've been working on the Hunter class frigate project for BAE. Now that has volume in it, but it's a different type of volume. And as I said before, we were concentrating on capability, but I wanted to revisit on how we were undertaking our manufacturing. So I actually got a lean manufacturing consultant in to help us develop that capability, and that didn't go so well. And it didn't take with the people, and for all sorts of reasons. And I'd have to put my hand up as well on that, and I had to learn how to actually get that more engaged. So we went through a process of a couple of consultants, and then we ended up with Lean Enterprise Australia, as you know. So and that has stuck. So our operations manager is out of the Lean Enterprise Australia group, and we've been able to get a lot of recognition in particularly in the defence, but also in that mining area. So, and that's really been the journey of a very early initial understanding or exposure to lean through to now, where we're really trying to put some more depth and understanding and develop it right throughout the organisation. And so that's where we are today.
Terrific. Thanks, David. Great story of where from and to today, and we can see how the business has changed. Danny, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about CW Products?
Sure. Thanks, Nicole. Great to be with you all. So my name is Danny Elisard. I'm the Managing Director of CW Products. We are a family Australian business that specialises in manufacturing and supplying window roller shutter products across Australia for domestic and retail applications. So products that help people control their environments, whether it's light, sun, temperature control within their dwellings, or security and protection. We really help people take control of their environments and empower them within their environments. I'm the second generation in this business. My father started this business in, I think, about 1 month before I was born, and I'm 41 years old today. I'm the son of refugee immigrants, and my parents and family came to this country with no language, no money, but a hell of a lot of ambition to create a better future for their kids. My personal background is I never thought that I would be doing what I'm doing today, but I'm certainly very privileged and blessed. I always had a real fascination with design and marketing and thought that's what I wanted to do. And what happened was, whilst I was studying at university, so even before that, at a young age, Dad would take me everywhere with him, and I'm very close to my father, and he would take me in the early days of setting up the business to see the accountant or the lawyer or see the customer or meet with a supplier. And I just learned to be, well, I was exposed to business, and particularly our business, at a very young age. And as I was going through university, I was working in the business part-time, and I'd see all these opportunities for improvement. And I'd go to Dad and say, "Hey, Dad, I think we should be doing this, or we should be doing that." And he would say, "Okay, smart ass, if you think that's what we should do, go do it and see what you can do." And I have to say, more times than not, I was wrong and fell flat on my face. So my experience has been one of a lot of trial and error, which has been amazing, actually. And I'm really privileged that I was given that space to do that. And I think that's helped me become who I am today and lead in the way that I choose to lead. And it's also helped our business immensely. So today we probably represent 35% of the Australian market in our space. We have about 500 active customers, and we are the fastest growing player in our field. And we're very optimistic and very bullish about the future.
Fantastic. Thanks, Danny. What a great story. Having met your dad, I didn't know some of that backstory about you traveling around with him when you were a youngster, but I can imagine exactly what that would look like. So thank you. David Plunkett, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself in a moment, but one of the things that I think is really terrific about the three lean leaders that we have today is that they come from quite different organisations. So we can hear a little bit of parallel between Danny and David's story in terms of manufacturing, but for David Plunkett, quite a different story. So David, tell us a little bit about you and about Eastern Health.
Thanks very much, Nicole. And yes, a very different story to say the least. Although, there are some parallels in the way that healthcare, and particularly public healthcare, is delivered to being able to make sure you have a guaranteed quality product at the end. So yes, Nicole's introduced me. I'm the CEO of Eastern Health, which is one of the large metropolitan health services in Melbourne, in Victoria. And we cover a square kilometrage of about 3,000 square kilometres. We have a population of about 1 million. We treat about 1.5 million episodes of care a year. We have about 12,000 staff across many different locations. And so our context, I think, is quite different again in thinking about the context that both have been spoken about before. I'm a nurse by background. I've worked in healthcare, and a lot of my time has been in public healthcare, but importantly also in private healthcare. But I'm a healthcare person through and through. It's where my entire career has been, and I've been now at Eastern Health, I can say, for nearly a quarter of a century, which is a hell of a long time, and never thought I would be there. So it's similar to what Danny said, never thought I'd do what I'm doing now, being the CEO. And I've been in this role now for a bit over 9 years. So it's been an absolute privilege to think about the type of organisation that you want to create, or you want to adjust or meld into. And that's where my lean journey sort of began. There are two sort of personal value sets that have sat really strongly with me throughout particularly my leadership career, not so much when I was practicing more clinically, and they are about making a difference to the customer. So in our situation, that's the patients and their families. What is it that we can do to add greater value to our customers? And that's one of the things that's motivated me right the way through my career, my leadership career. The second part of it is the incredible joy and satisfaction that I get in being able to see people conquer things and do things they didn't think they could do. And so that very deep connection that I get, and as I say, satisfaction in seeing people flourish and develop them, and to really give things a go that they thought were impossible. And so there's a little bit about Eastern Health. As I say, we're a large organisation. We've got a long journey, and improvement and trying to do things differently with less or with the same has been part of our journey all the way along. So we've tried many different methods. And there are many in healthcare that are sitting around the world, but in essence, the focus on the customer and developing people are things that resonate so strongly with me. Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, David. So that's a good segue kind of into the first part of our conversation when what is it about lean thinking and practice, that clicks for you in your approach to leadership? And I think, David Plunkett, you've shared yours there. Danny, I wonder if you've got some reflections about, thinking about what is it around lean thinking and practice that kind of was the light bulb for you, or did it just kind of emerge over time? What's your kind of story in relation to that and your leadership journey?
Lean really for us started off, we were introduced to some lean concepts quite early on, but probably more from an academic perspective and not so much from that real world practical perspective. And so I think it's one thing to know theory. I think it's another thing to actually be able to apply that theory in the real world. Our journey actually, the pivotal moment for us where our journey really started and got a level of traction and momentum was really around a commitment to grow people. And so we're ambitious, we want to grow, and we've got a hell of a lot of constraints in our business. And we want to, it started a few years ago, probably 4 years ago, where we decided as a senior leadership team, we've got this talent within our business. We just don't know, we didn't really quite know how to polish the diamonds and really get them ready for the future challenges of our business. And so a coach of mine, a business coach of mine, sort of suggested that maybe we should consider developing a bit of a emerging leaders program, where we develop a program that identifies some talent within our business, and we take maybe half a dozen people through a 12-month journey and over approximately 12 modules, and we try to get them ready for opportunities. It doesn't mean they're going to be leaders. We just start to invest in creating some awareness around some key things and skills and knowledge. And our operations manager said, maybe we should be thinking about lean in this journey and how can we incorporate lean? And we thought that was a great idea. But if I'm truly honest, I don't think we really knew what lean was. like we knew a little bit about the theory, but I think
Mhm.
on reflection, it's completely different. And so we did some homework. We came across Denise Bennett from Lean Enterprise Australia,
Mhm.
who's become part of our family here at CW as the other lean practitioners. And she came in and ran a 1-day program with our team. And the penny dropped that this is actually something that it moved something within us as senior leaders. And we thought, we want to keep going down this track. There's something here. And that's exactly what we did. So we moved into it quite intentionally. And, we've got a lot of lessons along the way. And I don't think necessarily we were able to create the right sort of momentum early on. And we've got some lessons and learnings around that. But it's just been an absolute joy to watch our people be engaged and grow.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Danny. So, that the people development part of lean thinking and practice, at the heart of both yours and David Plunkett's experience. David Heaslip, what about for you? I mean, you've talked about the journey from Century as something much smaller than it is today, and actually quite different, and you've had a journey of kind of difference over the last kind of quarter of a century for you as well. What is it about lean thinking and practice that kind of clicked in relation to you as a leader in your leadership role? You're on mute, David. Just unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. I agree with Danny and David. I like the disciplines that lean can help you develop. To be honest with you, I'm a bit slack. I'm always chasing the next thing. So a structure that puts some discipline in is a good thing. It helps people know what their place is in the organisation and how they can deliver and what they're expected to deliver. So I think that's a great thing about lean. But there's other things as well that I like about it. And as we're I talked about moving into areas where high compliance is required and that complex manufacturing. So there's some really good things about making sure that the process is repeatable and that things to do with quality at source and things like that, which I think can be really valuable from a manufacturing point of view and also from a people development point of view. And if it's done well, it can actually get everyone onto the same page. So I've been thinking about that a lot in terms of what is my place in terms of developing that and how do we actually take that further? Because some of the things that we're involved in, we do need to take it further. But for me, lean can help us do all of that sort of stuff. When we first made the Victor engines, I was thinking lean's all about efficiency. Now, it's definitely about efficiency, but it's about more than that. So it's about developing the people, but it's about making sure that quality of service delivery is there as well. So there's a lot in, and I'll be honest, I'm nowhere near an expert in lean. It's just what I think about it. So.
Fantastic. David, I think that's a great reflection about discipline. So there's a kind of inside joke at Lean Enterprise Australia that some of us are terrible at standard work. We really don't like it. We like to hang out in that box.
Well, that's me.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a really great segue, I think, into that question about, as leaders, what are the kind of daily and weekly leadership habits that you're relying on that underpin your practices as leaders? Danny, do you want to share some of your reflections about that? What's going on for you each, daily and weekly when you think about your leadership practice?
I think for me, the most powerful daily practice that I do is actually connect with people. And it's really easy to sit behind a computer or sit behind a spreadsheet, and there's a comfort in that as well. But I think, to be an effective leader, you need to go to where the work is done. And in our business, that's it, whether that's in the office environment or whether that's in production or warehouse or other sites or even connecting with customers. is just really, it's just so important because, you know, one thing I do daily here when I'm in Murray Bridge at our main site is I walk the floor and walk throughout the entire building actually. And it's incredible what you learn through that journey every morning. And it can take some unexpected turns very, very quickly. And sometimes it can derail your plans. But
Change the shape of your day.
It can change the shape of your day. And but it's really important because you get an instinct for how things are going. You get an instinct for whether the people are happy or not happy. You get an instinct whether we're on target or we're not on target. You get an instinct for the work that's actually flowing down the lines and a feel for who's ordering what and what's going on. And in real moments of connection with people, you get a really good insight into their world, and they value the fact that you're connecting with them. And sometimes it's on a personal note. Sometimes you don't even talk about work, but just having that appreciation for what's going on in that person's life can enlighten you and change your perspective on things or challenge your perspective on things. And the other thing is you're actually seeing the place evolve. And sometimes, you know, most of the time for the better, but sometimes not. And so you can actually come and ask questions and get better informed. And so that's number one. Number two is, and this is only recent, we have a 9 a.m. huddle, like a tier 2 huddle. And I try to attend that when I'm in the building as much as I can, even though my involvement is limited, but it gives me a really good pulse check on what's going on as well. And I get a real kick out of watching the leaders engage and just seeing their own development and the level of conversation starting to shift to become more sophisticated. So that's the second thing. The third thing is I will check in, you know, same with other environments. I will check in with the sales guys because I think that gives me a really good feeling on what the customer experience is like and what they're dealing with. And on a regular basis, I'll touch base with 2 or 3 customers a week. Now that's without even looking at data. And then there's a data component as well, which is I will look at the data. You know, what are our sales like? What's our output like? What do defects look like? What are those things? So yeah, that's how I try to keep my finger on the pulse.
Fantastic. Thanks, Danny. David Plunkett, I'm interested for you to share your daily and weekly leadership habits. And I know that some of that is about connection, but of course, the scale of the organisation that you have is very different to the one that Danny spoke about. So, you know, what tricks have you got for you know, operating in that environment?
Yeah, thanks. So many similarities with what Danny was talking about connection, about understanding and learning through Gemba. But you know, a couple of things that I just wanted to talk about for myself is one of the best things that I've had is actually holding myself to account for the things that I should do. So it sort of goes back to David's point earlier on about the structure and the discipline that comes. So in the last 12 months, I've focused a lot more on my standard leader work and thinking about what's important to me, both from a leadership point of view, but also from my own development point of view, and making sure that I've got the balance amongst the two. So that's one that I have found a lot of joy in actually using it, because it allows me to really be clear with myself about what I should do and what I shouldn't do, and what is important to me. And like everybody, I don't get it right all the time, and I'm often thinking to myself, oh, if only I could, because sometimes I just don't get it. But I use it to actually recalibrate my expectations of myself. So that's sort of a bit about me. The second part, you know, as I mentioned before, we have a very large geography. We have a lot of campuses, and you know, some might look at it as a very hierarchical structure across the organisation. But Danny mentioned before about the pulse check and the ability to be able to understand, not necessarily through data, but through conversation and listening, what's going on, what's the temperature check, what's the mood like, where are your sort of areas of risk, and to in fact use those huddles as a way of being able to also coach and continue to develop people by attending with them. Attending the huddles. We have sort of a 5-level huddle system because of the size of our organisation. So that takes you away from the front line and where care and service is delivered by its nature. So to really do connect, to make sure we do connect, and to support people to solve problems at the lowest level possible is really where we're there. Are we successful all the time? No. But to me, it's the journey to get there and the continuous focus on being able to live and breathe this way of thinking. So just a couple of examples, Nicole.
Yeah, thanks, David. And I think part of that story, reflects the conversation that we've had earlier about, when you stay connected to the organisation, you can kind of also see how it's changed. And sometimes, Danny, as you say, it's going the direction you would like, and sometimes it's not, and you need to take corrective action. David Heasley, what about you? What kind of daily, weekly leadership habits turn up for you and help to keep you on track in your leadership role?
Look, Nicole, it sounds like we're similar in a lot of ways. I agree with what Danny and David said. However, I do like to start the day with having a look at what our metrics look like. And Alistair's been very good, our operations manager, very good at driving some of our daily huddles, in particular with data. And we've done a lot of work on developing better data on the things that are important to us, and in particular where we're focusing on improvement in any one time, we try and get that to be driven by data. So I enjoy, like the others, I enjoy going, for example, to the daily huddle. I don't do it all the time, but when I go, I like to look at where people are reporting on the outcomes through data, but also talking about the constraints and the blockages that they're having. And the thing that really comes out, yes, the data is important and we have to be driven by that. But similarly with the others, I really like to hear where our people are at in their thinking. So quite often I'll attend a meeting and really won't say much at all. And I might ask a few questions and that's it. But to hear where our people are thinking and what the development looks like in them. And so some of them are starting to show really good signs of leadership. Others are really developing their quite a good understanding of the lean processes, and even talking in a way that actually brings other people into that sort of process as well. So the structure and the disciplines of lean are important, but the development of the people on top of those structures is the bit that's going to take us that next level, I reckon.
Fantastic. Thank you. Tony, have you got a question that you wanted to chime in with?
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. I've got many burning questions. It's rare air where we've got 3 leaders from relatively diverse sectors and experiences in the one melting pot. So thank you, leaders, for your time today. My question is more around sustaining the gains and what that looks like moving forward. I've got a lot of questions around reflecting on, what would you do differently and this and that. But I'm curious to hear around based on my 40 years of experience, sustaining the gains is one of the really important parts of being successful in this space, in this business improvement space. And I'm just curious to hear from the leaders what they believe the secret sauce is regarding sustaining. And by sustaining, I mean continuing the improvement journey. So perhaps, Danny, I might ask you to share your insight in this space. And I know the journey is relatively new.
Yeah.
for CW products, but I'm curious about how you see what's the secret sauce for sustaining the gains and moving forward from here.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, it is, and we are by no means a perfect organization. And I think the first thing is at that senior level, you've got to be really intentional about this is something that we want to do. And you've got to be prepared to get uncomfortable because it's going to challenge the status quo and it's going to challenge the way we've always done things. The other thing I would say is we've got to, and we've done our best here, and we continue to do so, is we've got to empower our people to actually run with this and to challenge upwards as well. And it's not always comfortable. Like, it's quite confronting, and particularly in a family business where there's so much legacy decision making. There's so much there's different leadership styles within the organization, and everyone's loved and respected. But we have different viewpoints on things at times. But the other thing I would say is the key. In our example, we've got this fantastic operations manager who really is passionate and believes in lean, but really wore the brunt of the responsibility to drive it. And actually, and the issue from our end is, particularly in the early stages, we see this as a thing to help us improve manufacturing. And actually, it's not. It's a thing to help unlock potential within people across our organisation, and it's a culture shift. And actually, you've got to lead by helping change the culture before you help change the outcomes. And so that's my first point. And the weight shouldn't be sitting on one person. You've almost got to find a way to decentralize that and get other people motivated, engaged, and empowered to drive this. And what it does is it actually makes it easier at that senior level because you don't feel the pressure that it's all on me to deliver this. And actually, and what it also does is it actually helps fast track the progress. So I would say empowering and decentralizing is a crucial ingredient. But finding people that are capable and willing is going to be key. Capable, willing, and engaging.
Very nice. Very good. And, this concept of leading by asking questions, really, it can be foreign for a lot of leaders initially. Indeed. David Plunkett, I'm dying to ask you this question in that whirlwind of healthcare. How do you sustain the gains? What's the secret recipe?
Oh, if only I knew, Tony. It's fair to say that our journey hasn't been linear, and we've gone up, down, around, and about at times. I think the things that we've tried to do, and I just want to reflect on one area, if I can, and it builds on what Danny was saying around the culture, is we actually embedded an organisational value of learning and improving every day as part of who we are. Now, we haven't necessarily succeeded. I think the concept was right, but we haven't necessarily described it the way that we would have liked to, so that people who are, no matter what they're doing in the organisation, as I said, we've got 12,000 people, so that's a lot of people to be able to align to the way of thinking. Have we succeeded as well as we could? No, and we're currently having a look at that. What I am actually really pleased that has been sustained is, in fact, our daily management system, and we've taken it to a point, but it has stuck. We started the journey to really have this in place 9 years ago when I took this job on, and it's now just the way of working, which is fantastic. And many other healthcare organisations have built a similar system from where we started. So again, back to Lean Enterprise Australia, they were the ones who helped us get to that point and start to look at that. But it has been sustained. And I guess the other thing that I would also say is that, again, it goes to what Danny was talking about empowering and decentralising. In a large organisation such as ours, there's no way that we could survive if we didn't really build this into the way that we work. And so we've done a lot of work in making sure that we can support leaders throughout their various levels to do just that. They've got the skills, they've got the knowledge, they've got the sort of infrastructure to help them lead and to empower to make decisions and solve problems at the local level. One of the best successes, though, Tony, I'll have to say, is when we bypassed our organisation structure and took this right to the front line. And really embedded this way of thinking in the local level. So that for hospitals, that's wards and departments and clinics, took it right to the front line, and they embraced this like a sponge. It was so refreshing, and so now we've got a bit of a sandwich happening. We've got to practice at the top, and we've got to practice at the front line, and we're now sandwiching that through. So just the thinking, the philosophy, and the ways of working now are continuing to evolve. But it's now much more inculcated as part of the way of who we are and the way of working. So it takes continued effort, though, continued focus, and continued humility to identify what's not what it should be, where you want it to be, and then being able to go again.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. The daily management system, music to my ears, David. Very nice. David Heaslip, I'm sure you have a point of view. The secret sauce in Century.
Look, I don't know if I've got a one magical secret sauce, but I do think some of the disciplines, or all of the disciplines that are inherent in lean, are a great start to sustaining the gains. Also the culture. So if you get people on board and in terms of their mindset, get them on board. And sometimes that's difficult. We've had some people that are sort of senior trades type people and have been very used to a way of operating for many, many years. And so to change that up a bit is a bit confronting for them. And whilst the disciplines help, I think as leaders, we have to make sure that people are on track. And sometimes it's a conversation or a question. But I also think that occasionally we do have to have a conversation where, well, hang on, this is not on track. How do we get this back on track? And sometimes it's a bit uncomfortable for people, but occasionally we have to have a bit harder conversation about making sure that, well, this is the way we've agreed that we're going to do things, and therefore, as a team, we're going to actually all embrace that, and that sort of thing. So, and sometimes that's a little bit hard, I think, for particularly different levels of leadership throughout the business. And I think one of my jobs is just to make sure and call out that those things are happening as well, and that we're staying on track. I mentioned earlier that I'm not great at the disciplines, so I've got to actually be seen to be as good as possible at those things, and I've got to be seen to walk the walk as well. But you've also got to get some people around you that actually can help support that, and they've got to buy into that process. And as much as you can, try and get everyone in that line of thinking that this is the way we're doing things, and this is the way we're going to go forward. And at times, you've got to be a bit painful. If for example, we start drifting off the mark, you've got to be a bit like a broken record, and just because it's discipline, but it's also consistency. You've just got, it's the same message or the same behaviours, and this is how we're going to get there. So I think that actually helps as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, David. So it's a common theme that I'm dragging from this is engagement and empowerment at the front line, having some structure around that, which kind of leads me down a path of, and maybe Denise, maybe you've got a burning question, but let me just throw one more out there to the leaders around kind of in the same space that I was thinking previously, and that is around developing the next wave of leadership within your organisation. What advice would you give to the next wave of the next generation of leadership in your organisation based on, so you've managed some change. You've gone through some change management to come from this to that, and this is the current state. And you probably have a vision of where you would like to go. What advice would you have for the emerging leaders that will take it forward beyond this level? Maybe can I ask Danny once more to tee off?
Yeah. So the advice that I'd have for the emerging leaders is, there's a few things. One is to have that spirit of continuing to grow and evolve, and that be inquisitive. Challenge the status quo. Engage and empower the people that you've got, because I look across our organisation and I'm amazed that we did as well as we did prior to lean, and but it was really, really hard, and that's kind of the reason why we started going down the lean path. And we talk about lean as eliminating waste. That's kind of where it starts, and you kind of see it through this lens of the P&L. And but actually, it's not that. It is engaging the hearts and minds of people. And if I look around and go, like, what's our biggest waste in our organisation? It's not offcuts or the steps to walk and movement and that. It's actually missing out on the potential of our people. And it's hard to measure as well. And we've got shitloads of it. Sorry for the language. But we're aware of it, and we're working towards the right outcome. So I would say to the leaders, like, how do you get the best out of your people? Like, constantly ask that question. And our job as well is, how do we get the best out of those people? Because there's just so much gold there. So that's number one. And let them fall. Like, let them experiment and make mistakes. Like, if making a mistake is not a bad thing. We got an outcome, we got a lesson, we got a learning. It's not fatal. Okay, but take that and use that to guide you towards better decision making. Okay, and a better approach to get the best out of people. So that's number one. Number two is, like, we've got to strap ourselves in for the ride. The world's changing really, really fast. And, if we just keep doing what we've always done and the world around us is changing faster, we're on a path to extinction. So we need to get our leaders to a point where they go, you know what, things are going to change because they have to change. But we're not going to change for the sake of changing. We're changing because we're going to try to make things better. And we just need to get that flywheel spinning faster and faster. I hope that helps.
Very good. Very good, Danny. Thank you. Let them fail. I love that. I love that. What could possibly go wrong? David Plunkett, from the lens of healthcare, future leaders.
Thanks, Tony, and thanks, Danny. I'm actually trying to think about what I could add to what Danny has said, because you've sort of thought about the things that I would generally go to. I think that, the generations to come, unlike mine, where you were committed to the organisation, you did what you did, and I work in public health, so different context to others. You actually need to make it attractive to people, for people to come. So it is. I want to sort of build on what Danny said about having leaders support getting the best out of their people, and how then, as in this case, the leader of the organisation, how do you set that platform up from the start? That is that's sort of the thing that I would say is, be consistent, be tenacious, be forthright, but learn and accept that it's okay to not get it right. So a high degree of humility to sit there within who you are as a leader. If you're truly going to get the best out of your people, then I would suggest everyone would need to be open to hearing and acting on what it is that they say and what they believe. Thanks, Tony.
Very good. Thanks, David. And David Heaslip, finally, the future leaders in Century.
So leadership is about getting things done through other people. And I think that equation is a little bit different for younger people than, say, someone who's a bit older, say my age. For example, whenever I go into a job interview now with someone that's 20, they're interviewing me just as much as I'm interviewing them. So you've got to understand that it's a win-win. It's got to be a win-win for our people. And if we can align what's good for the business with what's good for the individual, particularly in terms of things like career development and things like that, I think you can get some quite good outcomes. And sometimes that means you've got to understand the individual and treat the individual differently. You can't treat them as a group when you're having that one-on-one conversation. It's quite you can get that insight in terms of what makes them tick and develop that alignment through what works for them and what works for the business. But the key is it's got to work for the business as well. But if you can get that alignment, I think you can get a really good outcome. I'd also say to the leaders, there are things that don't change, and I think you've got to understand some of the fundamentals. So in terms of lean or in terms of leadership generally, I would also, my advice would also be understand the fundamentals, because things will change, but some things can, if you understand the fundamentals, you can synthesize what's in front of you from what works well and then adapt with that. So I think good leaders are able to do that, and they're able to look into the future a little bit and see what's coming and think about how we will adapt when it gets there.
That's terrific, David. You mentioned alignment there. I'm conscious of the time. It's the fastest hour I can remember in a long time. It's been a terrific conversation. But there's a question that's come in from the chat. It's come from Denise Bennett, so it might feel like a coaching conversation rather than a question. But her question is about alignment. I'll read it. It says, how do you tackle alignment, deciding, and then working on the right things? So, David Heaslip, you started to talk a little bit about that. Do you perhaps want to just keep going from the perspective of you as the kind of enterprise leader? How do you tackle alignment and, get all the boats rowing in the same direction, as they say?
Look, I think you've got to articulate what the direction of the company looks like and where you're heading. And for us, it's in that more complex and high compliance manufacturing. And we've got, using the Simon Sinek why statement, our why statement is we own the challenge of providing critical equipment for Australia's future, which sits well with the mining and the defence, because critical equipment means it can't fail and it's got to be at a really high level of quality. And then you work out where that person sits within that delivery, and you have a discussion about what that means for their career development, what their needs are. And if you're doing your one-on-ones well, you'll understand what the development needs are, you'll understand what they're good at and what they can contribute to that business, and get that in line with what we need as an outcome.
Fantastic. Thanks, David. Danny, from your perspective, thinking about, your business, David's talked about the journey of how his business has changed over time. And I know that's been a bit of the CW product story as well. How do you tackle alignment in your role in enterprise leadership and deciding on what to work on and then getting on with it?
Yeah, I'm not sure we've been particularly great at this, if I can be very honest, but I think we're getting better. It's really clear to kind of David's point, it's really clear to know what the goal is and what we're trying to do. And so I think that's, if I look at our lean journey and where we're putting our energy, I think we're getting really clear on what the goal is, and the team is really clear and they have clear metrics, so that they're really starting to understand what it is that we're trying to achieve and what role that they're playing in that. I think our challenge around and then making it visible, so really clear for them to know when they're on track and when they're not on track is really, really important. So I guess that's kind of an example of what's important. But I think from a senior leadership point of view, and this is our opportunity, we can get distracted and want to do everything at once. And I think you just got to be, and that can create a lot of confusion in a company. because people just start going, well, what's actually important? If nothing's important, if everything's important, and I think that's our opportunity actually.
Fantastic. Thanks, Danny. David Plunkett, what about from your perspective? Really broad kind of service offering, if you think about what Eastern Health does. You're in so many spots. So how do you think about alignment, deciding on what to work on and then getting everyone working on it?
I was so pleased when Danny said that you could do 1,000 things, and I'll tell you what, that's our world all the time, because the one of the downsides of empowering people is that they go off and do what's important to them, and how do you keep them aligned with where the organisation's going? I would have to say that this is an area that we've got continued work to do. It's an opportunity for us to make sure that we are living where the organisation's going right through the organisation. So I would hate to think that I could be used as some sort of benchmark to talk about really strong alignment, because I think principally people come into healthcare because they want to make a difference and do some good things. So I think fundamentally at the core of it, we've got alignment with purpose while we're there. As far as then being able to deliver on organisational strategy and particularly for us, priorities of government, which is the other complexity that we face, it is a really big issue. But I guess one of the things that we've done really strongly is to get alignment between the board, the executive, and our leadership on trying to minimise the amount of items we're working on at the same time. And just from a performance point of view, last year we had the first 11. Anyone who's into cricket knows where that might have come from. And now we've got the top 10 for this year, and really trying to be very deliberate about applying improvement and being consistent in the way that we're approaching those performance issues, rather than again trying to do 1,000 flowers blooming right across the organisation. Are we there yet? No. Continued PDSA we need to do, but we're on the journey.
All right. Terrific. Good. I think we're about to be given the hurry up. I can see the little clock there says we've got 55 seconds to go. So I'm going to do a quick around the ground from each of you. If you had your time again, what is one thing that you might do differently? David Heaslip, one thing.
Start the lean journey earlier.
Okay, terrific. Danny?
See it as a culture shift, and engage the hearts and minds in people, and don't think about the P&L. That'll take care of itself.
Fantastic. Thanks, Danny. David Plunkett?
I think be clear and transparent about what you're trying to do.
Terrific. Tony, you got any reflections in 15 seconds?
No, I'm just really grateful for our leaders to commit their time to help us today. Outstanding contribution and some alignment. So thanks, folks.
Yeah,
thanks very much.
My thanks to all of you, David, and Danny. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for a great session.